Dr. Kobi is a senior research fellow at the INSS. He also served as Deputy Director General at Israel's Ministry of Strategic Affairs. Kobi, it's great to have you.
Good evening.
So if we look at what's happened since July 14th, and maybe most of all an attack that was carried out from this volatile compound, do you think that it was time that some sort of change happened in terms of security? And is this the path to something better, this deal between Israel and Jordan?
I think that eventually we are not talking about security measures or religious matters. We are talking about political issues. And I think that the events and the developments following the events were abused and exploited by some players here in the region in order to promote some political aims and goals. I believe that eventually Israel will reach to a sort of an agreement and understanding with the Jordanians, because the Jordanians are eventually the address for Israel and for the agreement about the security arrangement that should be held there. But I think that it will take time, and eventually it will be set.
We're talking about a new kind of security camera, for example, that's being discussed with facial recognition technology and so on, that will be further down the line. That's also very expensive, with Israel cutting budgets to foot the bill. Is that a solution in the long term? Because as we just heard from Michael, there's already a lot of cries saying that too won't be acceptable.
It depends in the eyes of whom. Okay, it might.
Or in the eyes of the Palestinian Authority, of Palestinian worshippers.
In the eyes of the Palestinians, first of all, there is more than one address or more than one player among the Palestinians. The PA is not Hamas,
right,
okay, and Hamas and the PA are not the Jerusalemites, and each constituency, each player has its own interest and his view or its view about the security arrangement, about the compound as a whole, and so on. So I think that with regard to the security demands, I think that these technologies might provide the good answers for Israel and for the Jordanians. I'm not sure that they will be accepted by the Palestinians, and I think that we have to listen carefully not to the Waqf but to the Jordanians, because the Waqf is a Jordanian apparatus. They are paid by the Jordanians, although they are Palestinians, okay, but this is a Jordanian apparatus.
It's the Jordanians that control the Temple Mount administratively, but it is the Palestinian worshippers who are coming out into the street in those clashes that we saw with deaths. It is Fatah calling for a day of rage and for rallies. So the Jordanian Waqf can't really be completely in control, can it?
They can be. I don't know what is the meaning of full control. I don't believe that there is such a thing like full control. We have to understand that we can do 100% efforts. It doesn't mean that it will be 100% results, okay? But if Israel and Jordan will reach to understandings, then everything will be easier. It doesn't mean that there will be no problems, but it will be easier to facilitate. Now, Abu Mazen has a great interest to reach to understandings with Jordan and to be part of that deal, because otherwise he's going to be challenged by Hamas and by the Northern Islamic movement in Israel.
Right, he needs to be strengthened himself. Kobi, so if we're looking at those two scenarios together, on one hand, the Lebanese government and the prime minister is vocally against Iran, and on the other hand, you have Hezbollah, a big part of this country, working for Iran. How do those things go together, and where do you see the White House maybe getting involved?
I'm not sure that they go together. I think that eventually Lebanon as a state, as a country, the Lebanese government, including Hariri as the prime minister, are hostages of Hezbollah and Iran. Eventually, Hezbollah is much stronger from the military point of view in comparison to the Lebanese army, and the Lebanese army is relied on Hezbollah, okay? And Hezbollah can do almost whatever they want in Lebanon. They are part of the political system as well, and they are backed by the Iranians, and the Iranians actually are the bully, okay, or the strong player here in the region, in the sphere, in the Lebanese-Syrian sphere. And therefore, I think that Hariri has no real maneuver sphere with regard to his aspirations or with regard to his beliefs.
So if we have a situation where, as you describe, Hezbollah has great military power, probably only getting greater with this experience in the Syrian war, great political power in Lebanon, is there anything that President Donald Trump can do to change that balance of power?
I think that the only thing that can be done in this regard is to take out Iran from the equation, meaning that Iran will be outside of the region, which means that Iran is not, will not be or will not remain in, on Syrian soil. I cannot see it happening in the soon future because there are some other interests here, mainly the Russian interests, and as far as I understand the situation and the reality, there is a sort of deep understanding between the Americans and the Russians with regard to the areas of influence in Syria. They actually divided Syria to areas of influence that follow their interests, and Iran is part of the Russian interests, at least for the time being. And the biggest concession that might be done by the Russians for the Americans with regard to the Iranians will be that the Iranians will remain in the areas under Russian control, okay? But eventually the Iranians will remain in Syria or on Syrian soil, and therefore as long as they are there, they will back Hezbollah, and Hezbollah will remain the stronger player in Lebanon.
So practically speaking, looks like whatever happens in that meeting in the White House today, Iran isn't going anywhere just yet. Dr. Kobi Michael, thanks very much for being here.